Right, let's get this kick started. It's on the hour. So thank you for joining me for this webinar on the topic of removing IT managers' professional isolation. I got a few criticisms for the title of this webinar, but it's really to get over the topic that the IT manager is so often an under-leveraged asset by most businesses. And it's about how we're going to take them on their journey to be able to get the best of them. Effective and efficient IT is the keystone to any business success. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about on this short webinar. I'm only going to take 30 minutes of your time, and I promise we'll be done in 30 minutes. As always with these webinars, you're welcome to post questions through the question tab, and also any chat stuff, and I'll do my best to answer them either as we go or at the end. So moving ahead. So the IT Circles is a peer group. It's a peer group for IT managers, IT directors, people who've got the responsibility for delivering the IT. Our definition of a peer group, as you can see there, is about people who hold similar values to you and in similar roles. So it's not for everybody. It needs to be for the kind of people who are looking after that IT internally. So moving on. So the peer groups are different for different people. If you're an IT manager, then you're probably feeling the strain of being pulled in every direction. You've got demanding users and perhaps even more demanding paymasters. If you're the business leader, on the other hand, there's some kind of expectation that your IT manager knows it all and is somehow or other protecting you, understands what they should be doing to make sure that you're as safe and secure as you can be. I think there's also something about things like development needs, which often the business leaders don't give enough thought to. Development of your corporate technology provision. Again, you'd expect your IT manager to have some input on that, given that they're in the middle of it. But where do they learn what's possible? They don't know what they don't know. And again, where the peer groups come into their own is about being able to share their current challenges. So really what the peer groups serve for is to reconnect those two parties, the IT managers and the business leaders, is to give some common language so as they can work together. So 10 topics as promised. Number one, issues. So you join a peer group so as you can actually air your current problems. Yes, misery loves company, so we have to kind of avoid that, and the structure doesn't allow for that. So it's never kind of come along and moan about your issue. It's come along and talk about why it's the blocker, the obstacle. And the peer group members strive to understand what the issue really is and to help you plan practical next steps to be able to remove the issue. We notice, because we're a few meetings in now, that there are common themes to the kind of issues that turn up. And that helps because it means that generally within the room, there's some experience to be able to help work out those next steps. The second point on our list here is about challenge. By challenge, I mean challenging somebody. So it's about maintaining a safe and trusted environment whereby peer group members can ask difficult questions. And so, you know, if you say it's your issue, is it really the issue? And so their ability to care personally allows them to challenge you directly. So challenge is something that often we don't have the confidence to do, and whereas the peer group makes it its mission to get close enough to mean that you can do that direct challenging. Number three, accountability. It's all well and good saying that you've got a plan as to what you're going to do to resolve your issue, but who's going to hold you accountable? Who's going to hold your feet to the fire to make sure you do the things that you were meant to be doing? So it's not about blaming, it's actually about helping. It's about trying to support that ownership to make sure that you get to those next steps. And of course, if you get stuck, it's about who do you turn to be able to say, I got a bit stuck with this, what do you think I should do next? You know how sometimes if you stopped at the roadside and said, can you tell me how to get to, you've kind of listened to the next few directions, but by the time you get to the fourth or the fifth turn, was that a right or a left? Knowing that you've got the people who are holding you accountable, that you can come back to them and say, okay, well, I did that bit, what's next, is kind of really useful. Number 4, strategy. So having a strategy for your IT, again, is very important. But where do you start on defining what makes good strategy? Helping the business leaders to understand the impact of IT on the business plans is kind of key. So what we encourage our peer group members to do is to get closer to the leadership of the organization so they can make sure IT is ready to be able to deliver what is expected of them. So it's kind of looking 3 to 5 years out. You'll hear me say no surprises, but it's about making sure that IT isn't causing the business problems by not being ready for what the business was planning, which today is something the business is planning but doesn't necessarily tell the IT. So number 5, perspective. So I talk about a wider perspective. You are the company you keep, and what we're doing here is getting you to mix with people who see a little bit further, a little bit wider, and from a different angle to you. It's kind of like if you said to your passenger in the car, is it all clear your way? That's kind of what you're doing here when you're asking for perspective, is you're surrounding yourself with people with a different view, different opinions, different ideas, different experience. Wider views make for better strategic planning. It helps you see what's going to come at you from the side and helps you be able to take a course that will avoid that. And helping you understand what's worth striving for, what's next. So critically, perspective also helps you understand what not to do. And because everybody's resource constrained, it's handy if you know what not to waste your efforts on, because other people kind of understand what it's about and can help you on your journey. Number 6, best practice. So best practice is a broad topic. So some best practice can be mistaken for, people's opinions, but where we find best practice comes into its own is real life experience. So we bring that into the room. So that's peer group members sharing what they do that they consider to be kind of the best. But it's also vendors and sponsors who are able to come in and share topics that are educational, that can help us on our way. We've had a couple of member delivered sessions recently. One was on internal user security, and the other one was on the use of Power BI as a development tool for data analysis within the company. Both were incredibly useful and incredibly interesting, but delivered by members. So if you do things in your business that are amazing, you can bring them along and you can share them, but equally, you're going to get everybody else's great pieces of best practice too. Topics that the vendors are bringing in are often around security, because that's about as hot a topic as you can get, but also things like disaster recovery planning or compliance and policy management, all of which impacts IT. Moving on to number 7, development, by which I mean personal development, the development of the IT manager. It's not all about going back to school, but sometimes it is. But what comes out of the peer group meeting is often things like, which are the best books to read, which are the books that have helped people move forward, or the educational content that's being brought into the room. But also, because these groups are professionally facilitated, you've got the opportunity for learning from the coaches who are running the programs. So again, there's some useful stuff in there that the members can take back to their teams and back to their office. So budget. Budget's kind of important, and this is a frequent topic because of the fact that IT managers tend to be dictated their budget, whereas they should be able to influence their budget. So planning for future needs, by the time the IT manager has a full understanding of where the business is trying to go, they can then help to define the budget for the future. Again, think 3 to 5 years, longer's always better. And it's about making sure the budget and the IT strategy have congruency, that they're joined up and that they're being delivered for the same reason. No surprises, again, here, in the no surprises, and we don't have to break the piggy bank. No surprises, and there's a structured plan to be able to run it. Number 9, facilitation. I mentioned earlier on about professional facilitation, coaching, people who have been there before and who know how to work the room to get the best outcome. So their role is to make sure that the focus of the meeting remains that will give you good outcomes of the time that you invest. Capable, experienced people using proven systems and processes and tools. The groups meet for 1 whole day a quarter and then 2 90-minute check-ins on the other months to try and make sure that everything is all running to course. The full day meetings are on members' sites, so typically book out the meeting room and spend a day together. We've now done a couple of full meetings from the peer groups and they've landed very, very well. It really is where people get to feel each other's pain and to learn how to help each other authentically. And then the last one, number 10, I told you I'd get it done in 10 points, was about vendors. So vendors are the sponsors, the people who actually kind of help to run the program, but they also bring a lot of educational content. I mentioned earlier on that we had some of these kind of sessions. Smileback brought in a topic about the value of measuring user satisfaction. Barracuda spoke about the security landscape changes, and BCS have presented on security frameworks and the principle of least privilege, all of which are worth hearing, and all of which helps the members to be able to define their own process of what's important. So I think the reason why I picked the jigsaw puzzle here is that when you're looking at vendors for your own services, it's handy to be able to vet them in a way to be able to see who fits, which are the ones that will work with your organization. And so quick recap, 10 things. So issues, current blocker, next steps, making sure you know what's next. Challenge directly in a safe environment. Accountability, holding each other to what's been agreed. Strategy, connecting IT to business goals, and perspective, gaining a wider view of what's possible and what should be avoided. Best practice, testing what you do against what could be done. Development, a journey of continual improvement. Budget, alignment of business strategy and IT spend requirements. Facilitation is about the fact there's a great structure and process, the right people in the room, and vendors is about that external perspective and, again, those training opportunities. So hopefully I've been very respectful of your time. I'm fortunate not to have any questions to answer, so that's probably good. There's my contact details on there. Be very, very glad to hear from you if you'd like to get closer involved. The cost for these programs is only £100 plus VAT per month. It's pretty easy to see a return on investment for that spend, and that's kind of deliberately why we've kept it low. That's also why we get the vendors to sponsor, so as we can keep membership low. If you're interested in getting involved, drop me an email. I'll send you a simple application form for you to fill in. We'll allocate you into a group and checking for any commercial conflicts, because I don't want to put you in a group where there's your largest competitor unless you really want to be in with them. And then the facilitator will reach out, welcome you, come along to the next meeting and meet your peers. Yeah, so not only respectful of half an hour, you can have another 15 minutes back. Hopefully that was useful, and if I can be of any help, drop me an email, gareth@itcircles.co.uk. Thank you for coming on the call.